Shaquille O'Neal stood before the elegant facade of Le Petit Jardin, his heart racing with anticipation. The restaurant's reputation for excellence had drawn him here, but something deeper stirred in his soul. After an illustrious career in basketball, including 4 NBA championships, a successful career in entertainment and numerous business ventures, Shaq yearned for a new challenge, one that would allow him to create something meaningful beyond his existing empire. The evening sun cast long shadows across the restaurant's pristine windows, reflecting the bustling city life behind him. At 7'1", Shaq had always commanded attention, but tonight he wore a carefully chosen disguise. Thick-rimmed glasses, a well-worn jacket, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. His plan was simple yet daring, to experience the restaurant as an ordinary customer before finalizing his purchase of the establishment. Le Petit Jardin had been the crown jewel of downtown for over 2 decades, its French-inspired cuisine, drawing celebrities and food critics from across the country. However, recent whispers suggested that standards had slipped since the original owner's retirement. Shaq saw an opportunity not just to own a prestigious restaurant, but to transform it into something extraordinary, a place where every guest would feel valued, regardless of their status or appearance. As he pushed open the heavy oak doors, the maitre d' barely glanced up from his reservation book. Shaq cleared his throat softly. "Good evening, reservation for O'Brien, party of 1. He deliberately used an alias, part of his careful preparation for this undercover visit. The maitre d' gestured vaguely toward a young waitress named Jessica, who led Shaq to a small table near the kitchen doors, hardly the sort of placement one would expect in a high-end establishment. The table wobbled slightly as he sat down, and Shaq noticed a thin layer of dust on the nearby windowsill. These small details confirmed the rumors he'd heard about the restaurant's declining standards. Jessica returned several minutes later, her demeanor cold and uninterested. "What can I get you?" she asked. Not bothering to mention the evening's specials or make eye contact, Shaq ordered a simple appetizer and the house specialty, noting how the waitress failed to make any recommendations or engage in the kind of professional interaction he would expect from a restaurant of this caliber. As he waited for his meal, Shaq observed the restaurant's operations with keen interest. The once pristine dining room showed subtle signs of neglect. Water spots on the crystal glasses, slightly wrinkled tablecloths, and servers who seemed more interested in their phone screens than their guests. Yet, beneath these imperfections, he could see the bones of something magnificent: the soaring ceilings, the handcrafted woodwork, the potential for greatness. His food arrived lukewarm, the presentation lacking the artistry that had once made Le Petit Jardin famous. The flavors were there, but they seemed muted, as if the kitchen had lost its passion along with its precision. Throughout his meal, Shaq watched as other diners experienced similar indifferences. Long waits between courses, forgotten drink orders, and an overall sense of apathy from the staff. Using his phone's camera discreetly, Shaq documented various instances of subpar service and presentation. He wasn't doing this to shame anyone. His goal was to understand the full scope of what needed to be changed. Each video clip and photo would serve as a blueprint for the transformation he envisioned. The final straw came when he overheard Jessica and another server mocking an elderly couple who had complained about cold soup. Their laughter echoed from the service station, loud enough for nearby diners to hear. Shaq felt his jaw tighten, remembering his own mother's teachings about respect and dignity. As he prepared to leave, Shaq noticed a young family being turned away at the door, despite several empty tables clearly visible in the dining room. The parents looked disappointed, their children's faces falling as they were dismissed with barely an explanation. This moment crystallized everything he had observed throughout the evening. Le Petit Jardin had lost its soul. Walking back to his car, Shaq made his decision. He would not only purchase the restaurant but transform it completely. His vision went beyond mere profit. He wanted to create a place that would honor the traditions of fine dining, while embracing the warmth and inclusivity he had always valued. Tomorrow, he would contact his lawyer and begin the acquisition process. Le Petit Jardin wasn't just another business opportunity. It was his chance to build a legacy beyond sports and entertainment, one that would touch people's lives in a meaningful way. 2 weeks after his undercover visit, Shaquille O'Neal stood in his executive office, reviewing the final purchase documents for Le Petit Jardin. The restaurant's previous owner had accepted his offer without hesitation, perhaps sensing the mounting problems within the establishment. As Shaq signed the last page, his business manager, Daniel Cross, entered with a tablet displaying the viral spread of his documentary-style videos from that evening. The clips had garnered millions of views overnight, sparking intense discussions about customer service and respect in the hospitality industry. Food critics and social media influencers were sharing their own experiences at Le Petit Jardin, many confirming the decline in service and quality that Shaq had witnessed. The restaurant's reputation was imploding in real time, but Shaq saw this as the perfect catalyst for change. "The press is gathering downstairs," Daniel informed him, his expression concerned but determined. "Are you sure you want to do this today?" Shaq adjusted his custom-made suit and nodded. This moment needed to be decisive, a clear break from the past, and a bold statement about the future. The restaurant staff had been summoned for what they believed was a routine morning meeting. None of them knew about the ownership change, nor did they suspect that the poorly dressed customer from 2 weeks ago was about to walk back into their lives in a very different way. Shaq's imposing figure cast a long shadow as he entered the restaurant's main dining room. The staff fell silent, their eyes widening with recognition, not of the simple customer they'd dismissed, but of the NBA legend and entertainment icon now standing before them. Jessica, the waitress who had served him so dismissively, visibly paled. "Good morning," Shaq began, his voice carrying the same authority that had commanded basketball courts and boardrooms. "As of this morning, I am the owner of Le Petit Jardin." The silence in the room deepened as understanding dawned on their faces. He played selected clips from his visit on the dining room's large screen, installed for private events. The staff watched in uncomfortable silence as their own behavior was displayed before them. Some looked away in shame, others shifted nervously, and a few seemed to be seeing their actions through new eyes for the first time. "What you've just watched represents everything this restaurant will no longer be," Shaq continued, his tone firm but not unkind. Le Petit Jardin was built on a foundation of excellence, respect, and hospitality. Somewhere along the way, those values were forgotten. Today, we begin the process of remembering. He introduced Daniel Cross, now appointed as the regional director, who would oversee the transformation. Daniel stepped forward, carrying a stack of folders containing new service protocols, training schedules, and the revised mission statement Shaq had personally crafted. "Each of you has a choice to make," Shaq announced. "You can be part of this transformation, embrace our new standards, and help build something extraordinary. Or you can choose to leave with a generous severance package and our best wishes. For there is no middle ground. The disrespect, the apathy, the mediocrity ends today." Jessica stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Mr. O'Neal, I want to apologize. I had no idea." Shaq raised his hand gently to stop her. "This isn't about apologies, Jessica. It's about choices. Every guest who walks through those doors deserves our best, not because they might be someone famous in disguise, but because that's who we are and what we stand for." The energy in the room began to shift as Shaq outlined his vision for the restaurant's future. He spoke about creating an environment where every team member felt valued and inspired to extend that same feeling to their guests. He described his plans for menu innovation, staff development, and community engagement. Through the windows, the gathering crowd of reporters and curious onlookers grew larger. Soon, Shaq would step outside to announce the change in ownership and his plans for the restaurant's future. But this moment, this quiet revolution with his staff, was where the real transformation would begin. The weeks following Shaq's revelation brought intense changes to Le Petit Jardin. The restaurant remained open, but every aspect of its operation was under scrutiny. Daniel Cross implemented a comprehensive training program, bringing in industry experts to retrain the staff in everything from wine service to customer interaction. The security cameras that had captured Shaq's initial visit now served a new purpose: monitoring and improving service standards. Jessica, despite her initial embarrassment, emerged as an unexpected catalyst for change. Her transformation from a disinterested server to an engaged team member became an inspiring example for others. She threw herself into the training sessions, often staying late to perfect her technique and learn about wine pairings. The very qualities that had made her seem cold, her attention to detail and high standards, were now redirected toward excellence in service. One afternoon, as Shaq visited to check on the progress, he found Jessica teaching a new server the proper way to present a bottle of wine. Her movements were precise, her explanation clear and patient. "The label should always face the guest," she demonstrated, "because this moment isn't about us. It's about making them feel special." Shaq smiled, recognizing his own words from the training sessions being passed on. The kitchen underwent its own revolution. Shaq hired chef Marie Laurent. Known for her innovative approach to classic French cuisine, she brought fresh energy to the kitchen, working closely with local suppliers to source the finest ingredients. The menu was carefully redesigned to maintain its French heritage, while incorporating modern touches that reflected Shaq's personality and vision. The physical space itself received attention too. Rather than a complete overhaul that would erase the restaurant's history, Shaq opted for subtle but significant improvements. The wobbling tables were replaced, the lighting was enhanced to create a warmer ambiance, and the service stations were redesigned for better efficiency. Each change was thoughtfully implemented to improve both the guest and staff experience. Daniel Cross proved to be an invaluable asset during this transition. His attention to detail and understanding of human nature helped smooth the rough edges of change. He instituted a daily briefing system where staff could share concerns and suggestions, creating a culture of open communication that had been sorely lacking before. One particular incident demonstrated the depth of the transformation. An elderly couple, regular patrons who had almost given up on the restaurant, returned for what they planned to be their final visit. They were the same couple Jessica and her colleague had mocked weeks earlier. This time, their experience was completely different. Jessica recognized them immediately and approached their table with genuine warmth. "Mr. and Mrs. Davidson," she greeted them by name, remembering it from their previous visits. "We've missed you." Throughout their meal, she provided attentive but unobtrusive service, anticipating their needs and ensuring every dish was served at the perfect temperature. When they praised the improvement in service to Daniel, Jessica's eyes welled with tears of pride rather than shame. The transformation wasn't without its challenges. Some staff members chose to leave, unable or unwilling to adapt to the new standards. Each departure was handled with respect and professionalism, true to Shaq's vision of dignity for all. New hires were carefully selected not just for their skills, but for their alignment with the restaurant's renewed values. As word spread about the changes at Le Petit Jardin, former regulars began to return, joined by new guests curious about the restaurant's evolution. The dining room buzzed with energy, but now it was the positive energy of excellent service and satisfied customers. The security cameras that had once captured indifference now recorded countless moments of genuine hospitality. Shaq made regular visits, sometimes sitting at the bar to observe service, other times joining the kitchen staff during busy services to understand their challenges. His presence was no longer a source of tension, but of inspiration. He took time to learn every staff member's name and story, building a culture of family within the restaurant's walls. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Shaq stood in the doorway, watching the dining room in full swing. The symphony of excellent service played out before him, servers moving with precision, sommelier engaging guests in thoughtful wine discussions, the kitchen executing dishes with perfection. In that moment, he saw more than a successful business transformation. He witnessed the realization of his vision for a restaurant, where excellence and respect were served with every meal. 3 months into the transformation of Le Petit Jardin, Shaq decided it was time for the ultimate test. Without informing Daniel Cross or any of the staff, he arranged for a series of mystery diners to visit the restaurant over the course of a week. These weren't just any secret shoppers. They included food critics, former NBA players, and everyday people from all walks of life, Among them was Mrs. Eleanor Wright, an etiquette consultant known for her exacting standards. She arrived, during the height of a busy Friday service, requesting a table for one. Jessica, who happened to be serving that section, approached the table with the same warm professionalism she now showed to all guests, unaware of Mrs. Wright's reputation or purpose. Throughout the evening, Mrs. Wright made several specific requests, some reasonable, others deliberately challenging. She asked for her water glass to be filled from the left side only, requested detailed information about every ingredient in the special, and sent back a perfectly cooked steak, claiming it wasn't the temperature she requested. Jessica handled each situation with grace and patience, never letting her smile waver. In the kitchen, Chef Marie faced her own tests. A table of food critics ordered off-menu items, asking for modifications that would challenge any kitchen's flexibility. Marie's response was telling. Instead of showing frustration, she saw each request as an opportunity to showcase her team's creativity and skill. The resulting dishes not only met the critics' specifications, but exceeded their expectations. Daniel Cross, though unaware of Shaq's orchestrated test, had implemented systems that were now being put through their paces. The new communication protocols between kitchen and service staff proved invaluable during a particularly busy Saturday, when the restaurant was hit with several large parties arriving simultaneously. What might once have been chaos was now handled with smooth efficiency. The most touching moment came when a family with a child who had special dietary requirements visited the restaurant. The parents were visibly nervous, having had bad experiences at other establishments. The kitchen and service staff collaborated seamlessly to ensure the family's experience was perfect, with Chef Marie personally preparing a special dessert that met their dietary restrictions while still feeling special and celebratory. Throughout the week, the staff remained consistent in their service standards, unaware they were under extra scrutiny. Regular customers were treated with the same respect and attention as the VIP guests Shaq had arranged. The security cameras continued to record, capturing countless small moments of excellence. A server noticing and quietly replacing a dropped napkin, a sommelier spending extra time helping a novice wine drinker find the perfect selection, the host remembering returning guests' names and preferences. Behind the scenes, Shaq received detailed reports from each mystery diner. Mrs. Wright's evaluation was particularly glowing, noting that the service standards at Le Petit Jardin now rivaled those of Europe's finest establishments. The food critics praised not just the cuisine, but the entire dining experience, highlighting the seamless integration of service and culinary excellence. As the week drew to a close, Shaq prepared to share the results with his team. He organized a staff meeting for Sunday morning, before the restaurant opened for brunch service. The entire team gathered in the dining room, curious about the unusual timing. They had no idea they had just passed the most rigorous test of their transformation. Jessica sat near the front, her notebook ready to take minutes as she now did, for all staff meetings. Daniel Cross stood by the service station, reviewing the previous night's reports. Chef Marie and her kitchen team, usually preparing for service at this hour, waited patiently in their pristine whites. The energy in the room was different from that first confrontational meeting months ago. Now there was pride, professionalism, and genuine camaraderie. Shaq entered the room carrying a thick folder of evaluations, his face carefully neutral. The staff straightened in their seats, ready to hear what their leader had to say about their journey from a restaurant in decline to one of the city's most respected establishments. The tension in the dining room was palpable as Shaquille O'Neal opened the folder containing the mystery diner's evaluations. The staff held their breath, unaware that the past week had been an orchestrated test of their transformation. Shaq looked around the room, his expression serious before breaking into his characteristic warm smile. "What I hold here," he began, his voice filled with pride, "is proof of something extraordinary." He proceeded to share the glowing reviews from each mystery diner, watching as his team's expressions shifted from anxiety to amazement. When he revealed Mrs. Eleanor Wright's identity, Jessica's hand flew to her mouth in surprise. She had served one of the country's most respected etiquette consultants without knowing it. But the most powerful moment came when Shaq played a video compilation from the security cameras. Unlike the footage from his first visit, these clips showcased moments of exceptional service. Jessica comforting an overwhelmed bride during a wedding tasting, Chef Marie teaching her team new techniques with patience and enthusiasm, Daniel Cross staying late to help a new server perfect their wine presentation. "This isn't just about running a successful restaurant," Shaq continued, his voice resonating with emotion. "It's about creating a place where every person, guest or staff, feels valued and respected. You've done more than improve your service. You've rediscovered your purpose." The celebration that followed was interrupted by an unexpected visitor, the elderly couple who had experienced both the worst and best of Le Petit Jardin arrived for their regular Sunday brunch. This time they carried a small photo album. As Jessica welcomed them with genuine warmth, they asked to speak with Shaq. The photos they shared revealed their history with Le Petit Jardin, their first date 50 years ago, their engagement celebration, countless family milestones. They had been coming to the restaurant for generations, and now, thanks to the transformation, they could look forward to many more memories. That evening, Shaq hosted a special dinner service. The guest list included not just celebrities and food critics, but regular customers, local community members, and even some of the staff's families. The menu featured Chef Marie's innovative takes on classic dishes, each course telling part of Le Petit Jardin's story of renewal. During the dinner, Jessica demonstrated her growth by masterfully handling a challenging situation when a guest accidentally spilled wine on another patron's designer dress. Her quick thinking, genuine empathy, and professional response turned what could have been a negative incident into a demonstration of the restaurant's commitment to exceptional service. Daniel Cross took the opportunity to announce a new initiative, a training program for aspiring restaurateurs and service professionals, particularly those from underserved communities. The program would share the lessons learned during Le Petit Jardin's transformation, creating a ripple effect of excellence and respect throughout the industry. As the evening drew to a close, Shaq stood before his guests and team one final time. "When I bought this restaurant," he reflected, "people asked why a basketball player would want to run a fine dining establishment. The answer was never about food or profit. It was about creating something meaningful, about showing that with the right leadership and dedication, any environment can become a place of dignity and excellence." He gestured to his staff, now standing proudly in their crisp uniforms. These individuals didn't just learn new skills, they embraced a new vision of what service could be. They proved that when you treat people with respect, when you give them the tools and support to excel, they can exceed even their own expectations. The applause that followed wasn't just for Shaq or the successful transformation, it was for every person who had contributed to Le Petit Jardin's renaissance. The restaurant had become more than a fine dining establishment. It was a testament to the power of leadership, respect, and unwavering commitment to excellence. As the last guests departed, Shaq watched Jessica teaching a new hostess the proper way to greet guests. Chef Marie was in the kitchen, preparing tomorrow's specials with her usual passion. Daniel Cross reviewed the evening's service notes, already planning improvements for the future. The restaurant hummed with the quiet energy of a place where everyone understood their purpose and took pride in their work. Le Petit Jardin had not just survived its transformation, it had emerged as a shining example of what was possible when someone dared to demand excellence while fostering respect. Under the warm glow of the dining room lights, Shaq knew that this was perhaps his most meaningful victory yet, not one scored on a basketball court, but one that would continue to touch lives for generations to come.